Alrighty. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you find yourself today. I know it's another beautiful day, and we're gonna Good morning, have fun good as well. Good evening, wherever you find yourself today. I know it's another beautiful day. All right, there we go. Alrighty. Yes, once again, I want to welcome you to today's Analyze This. We have some exciting stuff we're going to be sharing today and be discussing today. Um, we're not going to be playing any videos today, but we're going to be talking about a video that we came across in the course of the week. And we'll discuss, we'll narrate the incidents in the video, and we'll discuss it. We're basically going to be talking about two topics today. And one of it is going to be about democracy and why it is important we understand democracy as a people, as Africans, as Ghanaians. Why it is important for us all to learn and push this concept forward. I know we've treated this topic under Leadership Academy. We basically spoke about democracy. We explained what democracy is, and we spoke at length about democracy. But today we're going to be talking specifically to certain issues in our country. It's going to be broad, but every now and then we're going to narrow it down to specific issues and certain happenings in our country. The second topic we're going to be discussing today is going to be about an accident which occurred, I believe, last week or last 2 weeks, involving one of the Ghanaian actors, which resulted in the death of a little boy, a tragic event which could have been prevented at all costs on both sides of the coin. We're going to be looking at both sides of the coin. I know it's been discussed thoroughly. People have spoken at length about it on social media, even in the orthodox media settings. It's also been discussed, but to our opinion, justice has not been done with, especially as far as the discussion is concerned. It looks like it's being looked at one-sided. We're going to be looking at the other side as well today. We're going to be looking at both sides of the coin and see how best we can learn and intensify our institutions and to bring progress to our community and our nation at large, even as well as Africa. So today is going to be a packed one, and we're going to try as much as possible to, if we're not able to finish it today, we can continue next week because it's very important, especially when it comes to that of democracy. I have come to understand, you may disagree with me, but I've come to understand that majority of our people, especially in Africa, don't understand democracy. They don't even know what democracy is. But today we're going to be delving into that. And we're all going to learn. If you have any dissenting opinions, again, as we always say, bring it on board. We'll discuss it. And as a matter of fact, that's what we love on this platform. We want dissenting opinions. We want different ideologies so we can judge all and learn from each other because we don't claim to have it all on this platform. We're all learning. Without much ado, I would go into the usual. On this platform, we don't entertain insults, and we don't we have no heart to harbor any insults on this platform. If you try to introduce anything of that sort, we are definitely going to take you off the platform. Once again, those of you who want to join us, I'm going to put the link on Facebook. So if you want to join us, you get on Facebook, you can click on the link and be a part of the discussion. But finally, we also want to remind ourselves that creativity and inventions are not done by the color of one's skin, but by an educated mind. Educated mind does not mean going to school. There's a difference between schooling and education. We're talking about an educated mind, an enlightenment that brings you an understanding to your purpose and to your gifts, for you to know how to implement or how to bring your gift birth to the benefit of your community. That is what education is about. So it involves enlightenment, it involves gifts, and it involves service. If you're educated, you cannot sit still but to serve with whatever gift you have. And schooling is following a curriculum which tells you what to do. And anyway, that's not what we are going to be talking about today. But again, inventions and creativity are not done by the color of one's skin, but by an educated mind. So educate yourself irrespective of the color of your skin and invent and create. Without much ado, I would want my co-pilot to introduce himself, and we will set the ball rolling. You can introduce yourself and start with your submission as well if you want to.
Yeah, as usual, the name is Kojo Wafimpon. I'm very glad to be here today. We took a hiatus for a little bit and we're back on track, talking about things that we love about our continent and our country. Yeah. Now, it's interesting to me. I watched a video of Fela Kuti when he was a little bit younger. He was talking about democracy and the fact that even though it was introduced to us by the Western world, there are certain aspects of it that was never, made a stand to the fact that I am sort of going off track here. There are a whole lot of things that democracy needs to function properly that we don't even do. We don't know. We don't care. We think that you just go out there, people come out and tell you what they are going to do, and you vote for them. And that's democracy. But strictly speaking, that is not even 1/10 of it, because we don't hold anybody accountable. And democracy is really the power of the people, and it means that people should be held accountable. That's what democracy is all about. And there is no one formula for how democracy should be practiced. If you go to Greece, the original originators, their system is totally different from the UK, which is different from Germany, which is different from Canada, which is different from the United States, which is different from Brazil. So the way I look at it, we never localized what we meant when we took on this ideology called democracy. And that's why a lot of people still plan for military dictatorships and stuff like that. But we don't understand what we do. And my English teacher in high school would tell you the sweetness of the pardon is in the eating thereof. In all these dictatorships of a so-called democracy, what are the fruits? My Bible tells me a bad tree will never give you good fruits. Neither can good fruits come from a bad tree. So we should look at the fruits of our so-called democracy, and then we will know whether we are doing so well or not so well. Thank you, Nana. That's my opening sound.
You are very much welcome, Prof. Yes, so like Prof said, we are going to be looking at democracy, which is very important. And I believe Prof already started to explain what democracy is. And as we know, democracy is a Greek word. It was derived from the Greek word demos kratias, which means the power of the people, or the the power of the people. So basically, I'm sorry, I was trying to respond to something here whilst I was talking. So basically, democracy is a representation of the people, is the power of the people. And one of the things we have to understand is that every individual is a custodian of democracy within your environment. Every single individual is a custodian of democracy within your environment. So when we talk about the power of the people, I find it difficult to understand that people will still want to believe that as humans as we are, we have to be subjected to some dictatorship, or we have to be subjected to some force. You see, democracy, let me state this emphatically clear. It is not the property of the Western world. Democracy is not the property of the Western world. Most of the time you hear people, and it saddens me, people we believe in, people we think should know better, will say things like the white man brought democracy to Africa. It is not true. It is not true. Before the introduction of the Western Europeans into Africa, we had our system of democracy. One, the crust of the matter is democracy. We're talking about the power of the people simply means, or let me say this, democracy equals the development of the people. Democracy equals the development of the people. Simple. So whichever means or systems that needs to be put in place to advance this concept, like Prof said, varies from society to society. You know, so when I hear people talk about democracy is a Western concept, is a Western idea, it gives me the impression that they don't understand what democracy is. It is not going to the ballot box every 4 years and be voting. That is not what democracy is. That is the Western system they have put in place to advance their cause of democracy. That is what we have to understand. Germany does not go to the ballot box every 4 years.
No.
But it's a democracy. You know, Rwanda does not go to the ballot box every 4 years, but it's a democracy. So we have to devise, there are foundational structures of democracy. Like I said, the development of the people, the rule of law, freedom of speech, freedom of whatever, freedom of association. These are all to advance the people within that community, to give basically each and every individual's advancement is so important to the community because it takes the individual education to advance the community's education. I don't know if I'm making sense. If one person is educated, it is important because each and every individual who gets educated within that community helps to develop the whole community. Okay, so democracy seeks to advance and to develop each and every individual by providing us with certain basic structures like the rule of law. Everything in this world, everything on earth operates on laws. There is nothing on earth that does not operate on laws. Everything operates on laws. And so if you want advancement and development, you need laws. And all democracy does is to provide us with the laws, and it is from us. That is why sometimes in the ancient community, they have the council of elders. It was not just one person who gets up and introduces something to the people. They had the council of elders. Some communities call them the gatekeepers. I believe is the Oyo community or some of the communities in Nigeria. They call them the gatekeepers. So this council of elders deliberate on issues that will bring development to the community. So it does not become one man's decision to force things down the throat of the people. So I don't know why we go back and want to glorify things like military dictatorship. We call it military dictatorship for a reason. It means somebody is dictating to the community. You cannot tell me, you cannot convince me that some people in this world are meant to be suppressed or to be told what to do. If you don't have that leadership capacity to be able to develop your people, don't hide behind these people. You cannot introduce democracy to them. You have to force them to do stuff. That is a lie. That is a lie. You cannot take decisions within a community which is against the majority or which is against the development of that community. So that is why in every community, like I said, the council of elders are picked from the communities, people who are intelligent enough, people who are wise enough, who study stuff within their community, and they would be able to come together and formulate laws or rules or regulations that will help them develop their community. So please, partisan democracy is somebody's system to advance the course of democracy. Let's start with parties, political parties. That is somebody's system. That is the Western system. Okay, so if you want to tell me that we are adapting the Western system of democracy, then I understand. But don't tell me democracy is not for the African, but the African needs an iron fist to rule him. You got to be crazy. You got to be out of your senses. So think about it this way. If you live under a system which is forcing you to do stuff against your will, you call that a human system? So I always say democracy is a human institution. It is not a Western institution. It is a human institution. Every human being, every human community you go into, people are looking for development. And people are seeking for consensus. People are seeking for dialogue. Dialogue is a principle of life. It's a principle of life. Negotiation is a principle of life. So if these are laws nature has put in place for a peaceful and a joyous or a happy community, progressive community, how dare you tell me that a certain group of people don't need that, but they need somebody to tell them what to do. It doesn't make sense. So please, please, those especially, I get worried when it comes from journalists. I get very worried when it comes from journalists. And I'm specifically going to speak to this particular issue. These two journalists, very, very, very respectable journalists within the Ghanaian community, glorifying military dictatorship just because somebody crossed the railways, I believe the new trains that were imported or introduced into Ghana. Somebody parked at a pickup truck across the railway lines. Later, when it was investigated, I don't know if the conclusion was that the person broke down, which was the first initial explanation that came up, that the car broke down in the middle of the railway. So the driver decided to go look for a jack to come jack it up so he can move the car out of the way. But unfortunately, he could not get back as quickly as possible before the train got there. So this created an accident, which again, the laws would have to deal with whatever that happened. Whoever was wrong has to be dealt with by the law. That is why we have laws within our community. The laws would have to work. And it saddened my heart when I heard a senior journalist talking about the fact that if it were to be in the days of Rawlings, this person would have been whipped in public. I'm like, come on. Come on. That is an act of lawlessness. And I don't want to go there today, but look at the lawlessness within our communities were introduced by the military dictatorship. Anybody who would do an analysis of the history of countries that have been brutally ruled by military people, look at their history and you see an act of lawlessness. Even the act of the military getting into politics is an act of lawlessness, because military has its designed role within every community, and their role does not include governance or rulership of a state. There is no country that I have ever seen the military being designed to rule that country in this dispensation. The military has a role. Their role is to defend that country. Their role is not to rule that country. So the military getting into rulership of that country or governance of that country alone is an act of lawlessness. So we have to understand, if there are some elements of corruption that does not allow our laws to work, or does not allow our laws to function as they are supposed to be functioning, then we have to deal with those elements. It is not the fault of democracy that somebody had to be arraigned before a court of law. Come on, as a journalist, are you telling me you don't even believe in the court system or in a lawful system of adjudication? Please, 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 especially journalists in Ghana, let's be guarded by what we say. Let us not speak out of emotions. Yes, sometimes some of the things might be a little crazy. And sometimes you ask yourself, what was going through the mind of this person? But that is why we are living in a lawful society. We don't live in an animal kingdom. We live in a human society. So there are laws. There are laws within every society if we want to progress as a people. So when somebody, that is why sometimes it's even sad. I believe one time, a couple of years back, a friend's younger brother was jumped on and was beaten mercilessly because somebody saw him in a place where the person thought he shouldn't be. And all he shouted was, "Thief!" And people pounced on him. Luckily, one of the people who were trying to beat him up recognized him, and he was like, "Oh, I know this guy. He works in this kiosk as a tailor." By then, he has been really ruffled up by the people to the point that he has to seek medical attention for almost 3 months. You know, just because of the act of lawlessness, that animalistic act of the people of our community. So what happens to law? What happens to institutions? What happens to law and order? So if we are talking of somebody being whipped by the military or by whoever in public to teach people a lesson, then you are sanctioning public lynching. That's exactly what it sounds to me. You are sanctioning public lynching. So if I find somebody or if I catch somebody in the act of doing something wrong, I can take the law into my own hands and apply whatever sanctions or whatever disciplinary whatever to this person. It does not work like that. So please, journalists, please let us be careful the things we say to the people, because we are educating the people. That is the role of the fourth estate. You have to preserve and protect the democracy. The fourth estate is a gatekeeper of democracy. So if you sit on your radio station, if you sit on your TV station and you speak against democracy as if we don't need it to live in a progressive society as Africans or Black people, then you're making a big mistake. It means you don't even understand democracy. Most of our politicians don't even understand democracy themselves. That is why we don't have accountability. Accountability is part of democracy. So, you see, this is the irony. You speak against democracy, and yet you want somebody to account for the wrongs he has done within the community. Think about it yourself. So please, I want to plead with journalists. I think I've spoken at length. I want to plead with Ghanaian journalists. We need you within our development program. You are the fourth estate. You are gatekeepers of the democracy. If you don't understand democracy, please go and learn. Go and study before you speak about democracy, because you are part of the people educating the masses to understand democracy so they will be law-abiding citizens. Do not let us become an instrument of chaos within our community. All right, Prof.
Well, it is very disheartening when we see the kind of discourse that goes on in our community whenever there is anything concerning the rule of law, or what we call democracy. And like you said, there are certain people that respectfully are so elevated that the kind of conversations they bring on their platforms, which have millions of reach to the whole world, is less than desired. You know, I've always wondered why our MPs, our representatives all over Africa, not just in Ghana or Nigeria or Sierra Leone or anywhere, all over Africa, it's hard to understand if they themselves know their role.
Mm-mm.
Because whenever you put our leaders in front of a mic, when there is a problem, they are explaining the problem to you instead of the solution, what they have done to solve the problem. I always found that so intriguing because I thought they were the leaders and they are going to explain what they have done to solve the problem. They are coming to tell us why they can't solve the problems. I've watched that over and over again. And that's why we don't even hold them accountable. Okay, there is this problem in Ghana. We have parliamentarians. They are lawmakers. Their whole existence. The reason why the state pays them a monthly salary, gives them accommodation, cars and drivers, and all these other amenities is for them to make laws that will solve the many societal problems that we are facing. And that's not what they are doing. They are mostly bidding for contracts and doing things that gives you a whole lot of conflict of interest issues. Look, no society is perfect. We say that here every day. And every day we have reasons to believe why even the American system is not perfect. The British system is not perfect. But the one difference that I always see is that you see people pushing to perfect the system on a daily basis. New laws are being promulgated and the old existing laws are being questioned or being reinforced depending on the societal push against these laws. They tell you, I had this, as for this place, this is how we do. When the thing is not working, you see, my first question to all these people that have this nostalgic uh, remembrance or whatever they want to call about military rule is that, was everything so good in the military rule? Was everything so wonderful? Then why did we have to change? I personally remember the atrocities that was done against me and my family concerning all these military dictatorships. But people want to come here. I always tell people, if you are less than 40 years and you talk like that, I won't even argue with you. I will not even have an intellectual conversation with you if you are less than 30 years. You are 40 years and above and you talk like this, it seems nonsensical to me from where I stand because it wasn't all that rosy. It was a developmental stage in our life as a country. We've gone past that. Now we have laws, we have rules. Let's use the rules that we ourselves, if we really believe in this so-called democracy that we are talking about, the rule books should be explained to the people. It is the duty of the MPs and the representatives of each society to come out and say, oh, this is the law. This is what you're supposed to do. And if you don't do it, this is what we should hold you accountable for. But this issue of always pining back to the 80s, to the 70s, whatever, it's not helping us at all. It makes it very, very difficult to, understand what we are talking about.
Yeah, just to add to what you're saying, it's mainly because they don't understand what democracy is. And most people have been confused by the fact that if you go to the ballot box every 4 years, if you join a political party, then you have a democracy. That is not what it is. And again, we want to stress that democracy means your development, my development. That is democracy. How are we going to live within a community in peace and progressively as individuals and as community? That is democracy. So my freedom to be able to develop myself, to be able to or let me say, my freedom to be able to educate myself is very important to the community. That is democracy. My right to be able to have an enlightenment that would expose my gifts to develop my community, to help develop my community. That is democracy. That is what democracy is about. It is about my development, your development, my enlightenment, your enlightenment, and our development together as a people. That is democracy. That is where our power, whatever our power is. Let me ask this question. Who will wake up every morning and will tell him or herself, I want to be sad today. I want every negative thing in the world to come to me today. I don't want to progress today. Who in this world, in his or her right senses of mind, is going to do something like that? Nobody. Unless there's something wrong up here. So if you would always want to progress as an individual, that is your right to life. And that is your power as an individual. So what we are saying is you are bringing your power either through what legislative means or election means or whatever means acceptable within that community, which gives you that authority or that right to give your power to somebody to act on your behalf. That is what we are talking about. We're not talking about an individual or a group of people or a group of soldiers who are pissed off about something or who are selfishly thinking of their pockets, pick up guns and come and govern the whole nation. That is not what we're talking about. Because that does not have my interest at heart. If we want to be fair, just look at the Constitution that was written for the whole nation, led by the military rulership. Just look at that Constitution. That is what it's proudly our wars now as Ghanaians. Because this Constitution was written to appease a group of people within our community. So it tells you the extent to which military dictatorship will go. Rawlings protected himself within that constitution. The indemnity clause was to protect him and his people. When he was talking about I don't want to go there. All right. I don't want to go there because that's going to sway the discussion somewhere. But when people talk about protecting and preserving constitutionally elected governments, and yet he came to overthrow a constitutionally elected government.
Which could be removed by a vote.
Right.
It's not as if there was no means to remove
right
a particular government.
So please, democracy is not for the Western world. It is not an European culture.
They learned it from somewhere else.
Right. We are learning blindly, or we are following blindly. That is what it is. So they have set up the foundational structure of democracy, which we spoke about, the rule of law. That is the basic foundational structure of democracy, the rule of law. That is it. Because that law protects me. That law protects you. That law gives me my right to develop me. That law gives you your right to develop you. That law gives us the right to develop our community. That law gives us the right to be accountable, to hold people accountable. So that is what we are talking about. And if you talk about military dictatorship, you don't have that right.
That's why we had something called kangaroo courts,
Right.
because they were not courts.
Look at all these military, or let me say the, uh, whatchamacallit, I don't want to use the word leaders, but all these people who were shot and killed during the revolution, look at how they were tried. And you want me to believe in a system like that? You try people
You
without,
see, those
yeah,
people talking like that, they can talk like that because they were not personally affected. That's how I see it.
easy,
They
Prof.
think
Even if you were not personally affected, think about it this way. These are human beings. These are people's fathers. These are people's brothers. These are people's
uh,
sons and daughters. Don't, even if they have done something wrong, don't they have the right to a fair hearing?
that you see, I'm playing the devil's advocate here because I've had a lot of intellectual discussions with people where we come from, and the base argument is that the end justifies the means. They are
That
trying
is,
to
I'm sorry to say, that is one of the most
exactly,
useless phrases I've ever heard.
exactly. But the point I am trying to make is that okay, let's say the end justifies the means. What was the end? We saw
Mhm.
it. Was it wonderful? It wasn't. I will be the first to tell you our so-called democracy is not yielding the fruits that it is supposed to yield.
Because we are not even practicing democracy.
Exactly. We are so intent on voting, voting every 4 years, voting every 4 years. But those people who we are voting for, when they are in power, the promises and the plans they say they will put into place, we've never ever held them accountable. We've never held them accountable. So there's no way we are going to see the results that. So voting another group of people in is just a waste of my time. It's a waste of our resources. But that does not mean you should come here and be talking about just one incident or two incidents, and then those incidents could be discussed in their own rights. Okay? Personally, I don't understand why anybody will go and park his car on a train track. But
Apparently, let me set that um, narrative in context. So the person didn't park there. The person was driving, but I don't know why he chose to drive over
let me
the
tell you why he chose.
railways, and the car
That's
broke down.
Let me tell you why he drove on the roadways. It was more convenient for him to drive on those roadways. And we live in a society where there are no consequences for driving in places that we shouldn't drive. And that's the basic argument we should be making to our people on a daily basis. First and foremost, who draws and constructs these roads? When I watched the interview when they were talking to the owner of the track, he was
Okay.
saying that when they built these railway tracks, the road that goes overhead the railway track, they didn't make any provisions for them to sort of circumvent where they were supposed, and they didn't block access to the railway. You live in the United States for a long time. They built 10-foot walls to protect public highways that we should not be walking on. That is not the duty of the individual within the society. That is the collective duty of the society. We had engineers, we had whatever, we pay them. Look, this is, let me be very basic. This is my problem. If I pay you to be my bricklayer and I provide you with mortar, with water, with cement and with bricks, and you are supposed to lay some foundation for me. Please don't come and tell me, oh, come and this is how we lay the foundation. Come and do it. Why did I pay you? Why did I provide the materials? So our society has ministry of whatever, minister of whatever, two deputies, the engineers, the town planners, all these myriad of successive leadership, whatever, they are there to make sure this never happens. That is their duty. And we pay them. We actually pay them to do this. So I don't even have a problem with the guy who incidentally drove over there. And when I was having this intellectual discussion with a friend of mine, they didn't even understand where I was coming from. If we didn't build the road, does it mean you should go and drive over there? You are giving the person an excuse to drive over there.
Where do you want him to drive?
Exactly. If you don't look, in my few years of traveling around, I've seen a dichotomy between a functioning democracy and one that is not functioning so well. Our people have this idea that everybody is going to do the right thing. So we don't put in blocks to prevent the few deviants who will do the wrong thing. We don't. I am not saying we are God Almighty, we can preempt everything. But there are certain basic things that we can actually preempt. Our society is not interested in that. Our society is interested in thinking that everybody is sane, everybody is right thinking, everybody is going to do the right thing. So we don't put in any blocks to prevent
Everybody is
people.
educated because they have degrees.
Exactly. And then you go to functioning democracies in which they actually put in guardrails, successive guardrails, to prevent people from doing the wrong thing. And in case you do the wrong thing, severe punishment to make sure that you will not do that same thing tomorrow. And even in those societies, people go to jail. There are still deviants, there are still bad people who will find every possible way to go against
the law or go against the law.
So you don't come and tell me that you just build a railway. And the funny thing is, this is a brand new rail track. People are not even used to seeing trains on old established railways. So to them, no train is coming today, tomorrow, or the year after. So to tell you the truth, I have a lot of sympathy for that driver. He's never seen a train go past that place before. How much education did they give to the localities that have the railway traversing their community, letting them know that we are going to do a test? In this modern world of drones, what prevented the Ministry of Transportation of flying a drone across the swath of the path to make sure everything is clear? What prevented them from doing that? Somebody should be fired for that train getting into that accident, so that tomorrow, when there is a new test about, somebody will walk the whole length of a train line just to make sure. And those are the things we will not do. We will make excuses for these people. And then that inept driver who doesn't know his level, we don't pay him. We do, as a society, we don't pay him not to drive on that railway. So the person that we have paid to make sure that the roadway is clear is the first person to be held accountable. But we are not interested. We are not interested in that.
Thank you. So we probably would introduce the next topic so what happened was, I believe about 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks Saturday, one of the actors in Ghana by name Lil Wayne. Is it Lil Wayne?
It's not Lil Wayne. It's Lil Wayne.
Lil Wayne. Okay. Lil Wayne. Okay. Had an accident and it caused the life of a 3-year-old boy, which I thought was very tragic. And it happened within the center of a robust town in Kumasi. And my concern is the fact that people were talking about the overspeeding of the actor. And nobody's talking about the fact that the kid was not protected in the car. Number one, I heard from other sources, I might be wrong, that the dad was saying the kid was standing behind him in the car, which was in itself, you are not even thinking about the safety of your child. That is called child endangerment. You are endangering the life of your child. I don't care how much the child is going to cry. And you and I know most of our kids don't like to sit in car seat, but we strap them in anyway. One, because the law will hold you responsible. Two, because the life of your child is your responsibility. So everybody is looking at, oh, the actor was speeding. The actor was reckless in his driving. Yes. But what did the man do to preserve the life of his child? If the man had strapped the kid in a car seat, properly strapped behind him, I bet you this kid will still be alive today. You
First
know, so
and
the
foremost,
police has invited the actor and nobody is inviting the man. That is in itself is a violation of the traffic regulations. And he needs to be called to order as well, because there's a law for it. You know, so I don't understand why we don't look at, you see, sometimes it is not about being sympathetic. Yes, he's lost his child, but it was also partly due to his negligence. So he also must face the rigors of the law. It is not because we are heartless, but it is because we want the right thing to be done. So no more kids will be lost through the negligence of their parents, not strapping them in the child seat. Look, I've had 2 accidents, and in both accidents, I was saved by my seatbelt. It was because I was strapped in my seatbelt. The second one, the car somersaulted twice, you know, but nothing happened to me, thank God. But it was partly due to the seatbelt. So you can't just put your child, a 3-year-old child, in a car and just allow him to run around in the car and not strapping him and be thinking that when something happens and the child is injured or dies as a result, you're going to go scot-free. Probably it's only in Ghana, but even in Ghana, there are laws for that. That man needs to face the law as well, not just the person who created the accident, but the person who refused to protect his child in the car needs to face the law as well.
what I wanted to start with was the fact that my father-in-law once told me that any time you sit behind the wheel of a vehicle, assume every other driver on the road is a madman.
Mm-hmm.
It
So
is your
my dad
responsibility.
says drive for yourself and drive for the stupid driver.
Exactly. It is your responsibility. And if you have a youngster with you, it is doubly your responsibility to make sure that that child is protected. There are no ifs, there are no buts, there are no excuses and whatever. Yeah, our heart goes out to the bereaved family. We are sorry you lost your child, but it is your fault. Lil Wayne never knew he was going to get into an accident. He never knew you had a child in your car seat. He never knew whatever, the speed limits, whatever. He needs to face the law for that. But that father, excuse me, you were negligent on your part, not just as a driver, but also as a father. Look, I always want to start with what kind of society are we trying to build? And if we know the answer to that question, we will put in the structures to make sure that we have that envisaged society in the future. Why will you put your child on your lap in the front seat or even in the back seat? And then, because we have made it acceptable where we come from. If you start this conversation on any Ghanaian platform, your voice will be drowned by, oh, that's what we do here. Oh, that is normal. We have normalized insanity.
Unfortunately, this time we're going to be making noise. As a matter of fact, we're not going to end this program today. We'll continue next week. We're going to be making noise about this. Please continue. I'm just...
We have to, because if I've seen people driving, they are the driver and their child is sitting on their lap. They are driving, their child is sitting on them.
Oh, yeah.
As if it's funny. As if it's funny. You know, I've seen people have their children standing right behind them, watching the road, whatever. They think it's funny. I mean, it's a privilege to have a vehicle where we come from, you know. So people like to show off and that kind of thing. I get all that. But why should you endanger your own child for the specter of whatever it is? I do not know. But like you pointed it out, these are the reasons why we have laws. And if we intend to make this democracy work, we should go back to the drawing board and understand that these laws have to be explained to the citizenry so that they know their rights and their responsibilities towards themselves and each other. So that when there is a crisis, when there is a problem, we do not use emotions. We go back to the drawing board and we look at logically, what should I have done? And what is the responsibility of the opposing party? And where do we meet in the middle? And as for law enforcement agencies, this idea of having sympathy and whatnot, it is for the courts to decide, not you. Your duty is to sort of apprehend whoever the culprit is, process the culprit, make sure the laws are working according to how the laws are laid. If we don't like our laws, that's why we have 200 or so members of parliament. Their duty is to amend the laws that are not working or we don't like. If we want every child not to sit in a child seat and make this the normal thing, go change the laws. That's what I would say. If it makes sense to you, go change the laws. This idea of, we ad hoc basis, we're going to look at things as and when they happen. It hasn't helped us. It has not helped us. And it will not help us in the future. There has to be a structural foundation within which things move. Without that, hey, it's each man for himself. And it hasn't worked so well for us. That's where I'll end today. And like you said, we will need to make a lot of noise about this.
We're definitely going to continue next week. But if anybody comes across this video, Ghana police, please do your job. Don't let the father of that child go free. Yes, our heart goes out to him and the family for losing their child, but he must face the laws.
He needs to be made an example so that people start.
Yeah. Because a lot more kids can lose their lives out of the negligence of their parents.
Yeah, somebody should introduce a law and name it after the kid that died.
If somebody violated the traffic laws by overspeeding, and somebody violated the laws by not protecting their child by
They are
endangering
equally, they
their
should
children in the
equally be
car.
held
They are
accountable.
equally should be held accountable for the wrongs they did. That is what we are saying. Ghana police, please go to work. We know you know your job, but don't let sympathy, as Prof said, it is not your place to sympathize or to cry with let the law take its course. If there should be
Exactly.
any mercy or sympathy or whatever, the courts would decide. So
Yeah.
please, the man has to be invited as well to go to court. On that note, we'll want to draw the curtain here. Thank you so much for being a part of today's Analyze This. And my name is Nana Osei Bonsu Jr. And my co-host is.
See you later.
See you next week, same time. We'll be here to continue this campaign to protect the Ghanaian child from road accidents. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.